Hello, and welcome to another City Skylines 2 video on Povop City, where today we have goals of expanding our city. As we can see, we already have a ton of demand from last time, so I do definitely want to look into building some of this demand out. Now, of course, along this road, I would like to have some amount of medium density. And now that we've built some medium density, I would like to add more high density over here. I did also add a lane to get through from one side to the other, because I would like to add some parking back here. Now the reason I want to do that is even though there is a lot of street parking, people, and lots of them, are going to be living in these buildings. Currently, this building isn't even full, and it already has 30 people in it, so parking is going to be a necessity. Now I did actually install a mod pack for parking, but we don't have it unlocked right now. So I am going to spend the 2 development points to get it, and we can actually look into what we have. Now these mod packs add a ton more for just versatility on these parking lots, and it's going to be pretty useful. Now this should add a ton more parking to the city, and of course, as it is an amenity, we are going to make it free. And actually, we can remove this path and just replace it with a park. And there we go. Now it is a little crooked because the terrain is a little messed up, but I think it's okay. Now of course we do have more medium density demand, so we should look into it. Now I do think I want to make these high density, low rent homes into somewhat of a complex. So to do that, I am going to put a road over here and a road over here. Now I'm going to use the surface area tool to connect it up and make it look more like one. Now of course we will add more to this and probably some props eventually, but for now we'll leave it. Now I do also want to add more trees behind these homes. And there we go, that is all of our trees added, and it does look a little better. I know this row of homes is pretty repetitive, but I don't think it's too bad. Now, I would like to also look towards putting another street back here, so we can actually add some businesses and maybe some offices. Now, it seems like we shouldn't build homes over here because of the industrial area, but I do think it will still be a good place for some businesses and for some offices. Though I do still want to hold off because I know that we have some assets that we will eventually be able to use, and some of them will come pretty soon. Now before I build any more of our demand, I am seeing that there is a problem with healthcare. And now that we are out of the negative, I think it makes sense to raise some of our budgets again. For example, I think healthcare is one that should go up immediately, as good healthcare is very important. And also I think the police budget can be raised too. Not quite back up to what it should be, but we can put it partially of the way there. Now, I don't really want to build any more industrial, just because I don't want to add much more pollutant to the area. But I do think we could add some more offices and businesses. Now I did just check for the pollution in the area and it says it's pretty bad for residential, but honestly it's not too bad as nothing is outstanding, especially compared to other areas. Except noise pollution. Noise pollution is there, but I think if we add a ton of trees, especially over here, it'll be okay. And as we can see, the buildings over here are also zoning in, which is pretty great. I'm not sure what kind of buildings they're going to be, and I think this one is the wrong kind of building, so I am going to get rid of it. But there is office demand which should be built. Now this block particularly is pretty dense, with lots of high density housing and medium density housing in the area. So I think it makes sense to have a pretty decent shopping district. Over here I am seeing there is a problem with noise pollution, so I am going to do my best to fix it by putting a ton of trees. Now hopefully all of these trees do solve the problem over time, but we will have to see. Now over here I do think it makes sense to build some amount of business. Now this is a pretty steep hill, but I think we will be able to deal with it anyways. Now over here I think we should build a pub. Now I don't want to really put it on the corner, but we can put it nearby. And this is what I think is a good area for it. Now, on the corner, we'll build some businesses. And there we go. That's a fair-sized commercial sector over here. Now, I'm also noticing, even though this area is pretty dense for what it is and how much low density and medium density housing it has, the traffic really isn't bad. Now, I think this is a result of a fair amount of people walking, which honestly I know that I made this city pretty dense through tight, even single family homes, but I really didn't expect people to be walking this much. And it's pretty great, and even with how many people are walking, I'm still not seeing problems with traffic jams as a result of it. But as we can see, our medium density demand is really high, so we do need to deal with that. Also, our offices have zoned in, and honestly they don't look as bad as I thought they would in this area. And especially because they don't have a ton of parking, except this one. It really does fit in, and I do think it makes a ton of sense, as there is also a ton of street parking. Now again, we do still have medium density to build, but we really can't build any more over here. But we can build over here, so that's what we'll do. But before that, as we can see, we have gotten the Heath Pub with a lounge, the Fox Inn Pub with parking, the Pub with a lounge, the Church Inn Pub and Bistro, and that is the end of our signature buildings that we have gotten there. Now, I'm not sure why this is a thing, because I feel like now we just have a ton of pubs for no reason. But it is what it is, and it does us no harm. I do want to check on our landfill, and it does seem to be faring pretty well. Now though, I do think I want to build over here. Also, we've gotten the bookshop, which I believe is a Chinese unique building. Now, it doesn't do a ton, but it does look pretty cool, but at the same time, it is pretty modern for the area. So I am going to hold off on building it. Now, all demand except industrial and a little bit of low density is completely gone. Now, at this point, we do have a pretty fair-sized city, and it is a pretty dense city, which partially makes me want to take out a loan and get the bus depot and start adding bus lines and increasing property value. But at the same time, we really don't need 25 buses right now, and we're probably not going to for a long time, especially because of how dense the area is. Which makes me wish there was a small bus depot, but that's not an option. But I do think I am going to build it anyways, and we'll go from there. Now, I do also think I want to get rid of this housing, as it is going to have problems and lead to people with chronic health problems, which isn't something we really want. So, these houses will have to go. And this will give us space to actually put the bus depot here. Now, the gradient is pretty bad, so we will have to fix it. Especially over here. And there we go, that is our $150,000 bus depot, which is probably going to be underutilized anyway. But now we can look into actual bus lines, which I do definitely, as it is a city with a commercial pretty much everywhere. I do want to just have a bus kind of zigzagging throughout the whole city. So I'm going to start on that now. But before I can do that though, we have reached a new milestone, Tiny Town, which should actually give us some signature buildings. And it also adds new services. Now we have also unlocked some new services, including mail and radio. I believe this also should give us a few more buildings, which includes mixed housing, which again is going to be pretty useful for making a more walkable city. Now, of course, we also got a signature building, which is the ones we saw before. But I do want to immediately look into post. And I think it's a pretty obvious answer to choose the Netherlands post office, as it is relatively compact and offers some pretty good service. And when we fixed the bus station, this road got messed up, so I am going to fix it now. And there we go, that is our post office down. Now there is a bit of a problem with the gradients once again, but we can fix that. And there we go. Now we should put some mailboxes around the city. We can look towards building our bus lines. And there we go, that is the route complete, and as again this is a pretty essential part of a city, I am going to reduce the ticket price, and also reduce the amount of vehicles. Also I am going to change the color to be nicer, and I'm going to make it a nice white bus. As we can see, there is still plenty of demand, and also, once again, the wrong building has zoned in here, so I am going to get rid of it. And as we can see, the correct one is coming now. Over here I am going to build more high density. And also, there is a house on fire, so it is now time to see how well our fire services work. Now there is a little bit of traffic, but we can see the fire engine is moving pretty quickly through the streets as there isn't a ton of traffic. Now over here I am seeing there is actually a bit of traffic, so that is something we might want to look into the future. But I do think the fire engine should arrive in time and all should be well. Once again though, we are gonna continue zoning in. Now I do think it might also make sense to look into building our signature building, because I just think it would fit in the area pretty well. And I'm gonna build it here as it is a pretty high density area anyways, so adding another building that is once again high density isn't gonna be too horrible. I do think I will change the color to be more of a orangey, just like it is here. And there we go. I think this fits in quite a bit better. And as it is a medium density building with a shop in it, it only took away our medium density demand, so we should look towards building more high density. Which again, keeping this area consistent with being a dense area, I will build it right here. Also, over here I forgot to add the sidewalk, so I am going to have to get rid of a house to do that. Now that did also affect down here, but I think we should be able to fix this. There we go, problem solved. Now again, I would like to add more high density over here. There we go. As this has zoned in now, we can finish the courtyard. Now I do want to add some fountains and maybe some swings. And there we go, that is the courtyard complete, and even though it is probably an unnecessary amount of detail, I think it still looks pretty good and is worth it. Now quite a lot of time has passed, so I do want to check on our bus line. And as we can see, quite a fair amount of people are using it. Now it isn't too much, and it isn't an unmanageable amount, I don't think, but I do think another bus would be something we could add. So I'm going to change it to gray just so it is easier to see how many people are on each bus. With that said, we have gotten a lot done in the city, including growing our public transportation, adding many more homes, especially this really dense area over here, and just moving one step closer to making this a huge and thriving city. Anyways, that's the end of this video, and I really want to thank you for watching through the whole thing. It really means a lot. In the meantime, if you have any questions or suggestions, please leave them down below, and have yourself a great day.